All right, a very good morning. It is the 19th of September 2023. We are 8 minutes past 7 a.m. My name is Frederick Dramadri. You are hosting, actually you are watching the KOKOLIRIKO show live here on Westnile television. We'll be discussing so many issues around development, and also remember, yesterday schools officially resumed third term. And what happened in this, that is what we'll be really diving into. And there are a lot of things to do with the infrastructural challenges, to do with the poor turnout of learners into schools and so on. There are so many things that we'll be really discussing around those areas. Remember, the regional budget consultative meetings are on. Different regions are holding these meetings. For Westnile region, it started yesterday. There are a lot of issues to do with late release of funds, the issues to do with electricity, the issues to do with local economic development that really shaped the discussions, and this will continue today, and that is where we'll be also focusing so much into. And also in the subsequent hours we'll be having a guest that will be here to discuss the issues of the persistent infections, I mean zoonotic diseases that have really continued to cause havoc in Westnile region, and mostly these are reported on the days of rain season, and we expect a lot of insights about this from the principal veterinary officer, who is also the director Rural Regional Veterinary Lab, and that is where we'll be also focusing so much into, because so many people have lost their animals. And remember, most of these zoonotic diseases in Uganda were first detected in the Westnile region. By then, it was Arua district, and then that Arua district really was so big that it really accommodated all the 13 local governments, and we'll be also moving into that and see if we can really tap something sensible to benefit our people, and also really see how to move away from this kind of zoonotic diseases. And away from that, we have seen from the budget consultative meetings a statement from the finance minister indicating that really the country is not doing well in terms of economic development. The economy is progressing at 5.5%, and this is far away from what was on target, which was 6.3, and much as this is slightly an increase from last financial year, which is 4.5%. What has gone wrong? Why is it that we have continued to increase the inflation in this country, and also evade taxes? Those are some of the things. Remember, tax is one of the greatest contributors to economic development. Talk about also how we are able to add value in order to retain money in this country. That is where our focus will be, on the national focus, and also a lot of issues. Remember, yesterday the court really said the court injunction on the FDC national conference still remains, and that means today the dialogue, actually conference, is not supposed to be held. But we are seeing Arias Lukwago and his team saying today they have actually already mobilized their supporters, the people, the delegates. They will be full in sync to have that conference really done. That is one thing on political side that is also happening in this country. You wish to also hear about that. That is where we'll be also really moving into in the subsequent hours. But also slightly away from that, you have seen a lot of issues around sports, issues around international trade, a lot of issues around coups that are still persistent in the Western African. That is where we will also maybe come to an end, or put the discussions to an end. And that is the brief summary of what we'll be unpacking from here on Westnile television here in this show. That is the KOKOLIRIKO show, which runs up to 9 a.m. Maybe let's start from home, where schools actually resumed yesterday. A number of schools that were visited by a team of journalists from Westnile television really understood that clearly schools of officially resumed, but the number of learners were really not enough. I mean, the target that schools actually expected were not realized. Talk about, for instance, when a school registered maybe in second term 1,000 learners, you realize that close to 400 have returned. What is wrong? What is happening at homes? That is where we actually, the previous day, talked so much about really parents supporting the education of their learners, because if the teachers are able to come, if the cleaner, him or herself, is able to also come and really do his work, what about the learner who is there to go and attend to the teachers? So if teachers come and the teachers do not find people to teach, then that is very, very unfortunate. And that's where really we need to do a lot in terms of sensitizing these parents, in terms of also understanding the challenges they are going through. Because some of these schools put a lot of restrictions that one of the restrictions that might create fear among the parents is the issues to do with school fees. You are supposed to pay 3/4 of this. 3/4 meaning you'll be left with the 1/4. That is, if you are to pay 1 million, you're supposed to pay 75 or 750,000 shillings, approximately like that. So that means it is a big blow to the parents, because within this 1 month, you cannot expect somebody to raise up to that. But if we can accept half, if we can accept quarter, allow these learners to go, maybe after 1 month you remind the parents so that they're able to offset some of these dues. Those small monies are very important, because if you cannot accept that, then we'll continue to have this small number of learners in schools and so on. Yesterday, also in the discussions, you remember the issues, the concerns of government schools not being enough was raised as a result of these issues of infrastructure that is not enough in the already existing institutions. Currently, Uganda is running what you call the universal primary or secondary education, where learners are actually supposed to really move to these institutions at a free cost. At a free cost meaning the cost sharing is a bit minimal. That does not mean the free is you just go and everything is at a free. No, there are a few monies that you share with government, that government pays off on your learner, and also you cost share with government, and that is what is meant by universal primary or secondary education, and that is the main driver of eradicating illiteracy in the home states. And also you realize that many people are now sending their learners to schools, and if you look at statistics by UN Habitat and also UNESCO, they kind of they can't are related in terms of their findings. You realize that out of 10 learners, you will see that only 2 of them are able to represent or present themselves very, very well in terms of the knowledge they acquired from the schools, in terms of their skills of public speaking, expressions, and so on. This kind of also fluence in speaking English. Those are some of the findings that you will see. And also, if you look at the progress of these learners in terms of completion, talk about P5 to P7, you realize that the number of girls is so minimal, and the number of dropouts seem to be very, very high. Talk about, if you look at the enrollment, for instance, if there are 1,000 learners in P1, you realize that those who complete at P7, they may not reach 100. And that is where the area of the issues to do with quality of education comes in. So for us to fight that, there's a lot that we need to do in terms of having all these issues addressed. One of these is the issue of infrastructure. That is both for the teachers and the learners. 2 is the issue of attitude among parents and also the learners themselves. Are they really willing to sacrifice to go to these schools? Are the teachers willing to come to maybe to come for lessons earlier enough? That is one thing we really need to focus on, because there are some teachers because of this issue of salary enhancement for science teachers, the scientists, and generally those who are in the science department. You realize that some of the staff have been demoralized. Talk about the arts teachers and the primary school teachers generally. The primary school teachers, most of them now have acquired border bikes, the motorcycles. They are riding during break. A teacher moves out, comes back, and so on. Some of those are the contributors for the late coming and also absenteeism among the teachers. So what can government tap into this? And also the supervisors, the inspectors of these schools, and also the immediate supervisor is the head teacher, the SMC, the PTA, all of them are there. Are you able to move to these schools frequently to see whether these teachers and the learners are in class? That is one thing we need to focus on. If you cannot address that, Westnile region will continue to really register this kind of results. Remember recently when the Anglican Church, Madi Westnile Diocese, contacted a PLE like a pre-mock in this region. Out of the 100 schools that did the exams, you realize that there were a number of 1,600 plus learners who sat for these exams. Out of these, only 57 were first graders, and none of this really was below 7. Okay, the first graders, the 57 were from 7 to 12, and that means a lot. If we are to compete with other regions, other candidates in other schools, and maybe talk about in Kampala, in Acholi sub-region, in Lango sub-region, in those other sub-regions that we have, there are 15 sub-regions in this country. So if we are to compete with them, and we still have out of over 1,000, we have only 57 first graders. Out of this, and we have only 500 failures, okay? 500 failures, that is half of almost the population that we have. And then we have those who did not complete exams, who are also there. Then we have second graders, only 100 something. That is very, very huge if we cannot fight literacy like in a combined way, in a joint way. It is something that will continue to affect us as a region and the nation at large. And two, after the COVID, there were a number of people who really thought education will not pick up again. Talk about the changes in the curriculum, talk about the issues to do with the variations in earnings. So that was one of the mental idea that some people had in their brains, and that made many people fail to send back their children to school. And also we have these teenagers who got pregnant, and you realize that the boys decided to opt to go out to do street venting, and the ladies decided to be married off. And this was one thing that was castigated so much by the president, and also some of the education ministers who clearly said that those who are pregnant, who have conceived, once they deliver, they should be able to go back to school. And this, the first term, when schools reopened, we saw so many girls with babies, others pregnant, and now you cannot see any of them. Where have they gone? That is where we need to trace them. And that is the role of the school inspectors, the various stakeholders who are the main players in education, to really see that a learner is able to complete the level he or she is really in. And we need to understand their problems. Is there any other support that government is rendering to these learners who are willing to continue with education even after the pregnancy? Those are the things we need to look into if we want to accommodate all in order to really eradicate this animal called the illiteracy that is eating up all the grasses that we have, and also the crops that we have that are being destroyed by this illiteracy kind of animal. Because if people are illiterate, the level of poverty will continue, because changing the mindset of these persons who are illiterate is very, very quite difficult, because they believe in what they know. They don't believe in what you know. And driving them back to what you feel will be able to really pick them out of poverty is another thing that is very, very difficult. So one way is taking them through the formal system of education, enlighten them their capacity of thinking. That will be able to really address some of these issues. And also in terms of bringing these children to school, I remember when I was still in my early years, around 5 years, 7 years in primary, 2, 3, I remember in my school, they used to go and look for children from homes. They set some of the children, if you're coming from, for instance, you're coming from Ivu Division, you are going to arrest pupils from Arua Central Division. And that was how the school was able to collect all these learners back to school. And when you are brought back to school, they beat you up and they call your parent. Your parent is supposed to come and work for the school, or is supposed to come and make statements on why you are not coming to school. And more interestingly, some of these are really the faults of the learners themselves. Some learners, those coming to school, they pretend that they are coming to school. You realize that they branch off and they move to really visit their colleagues. They move to do things that are not needed of them. And that is where the school really got it right to understand the relationship between the learner, the parent, and also their coming to school. And that was where they were able to fix that. And I think it was a positive note that made some of us really motivated to continue with education and really progress somehow far, where we are able to now represent or present certain crucial issues before the public. And that is one thing other schools should be able to learn from if we are to all do better in the near future. And that is where I'm driving the discussions around education, the discussions around the infrastructure, and how really we need to eradicate illiteracy. We understand that during the COVID, the economy really ran down, and things were not rhyming up, because support for this country was really dwindling. From the donor support was dwindling, and also a lot of things really didn't go well in terms of increasing the income and also the revenue for these local governments to improve the status of these schools. But the available structures have been really catered for in terms of the captations, much as they sometimes come late, much as some of them reduced, because some schools used to write, actually escalate figures, but because the ministry came closely to understand how many learners you really have, you realize that some of the schools have started receiving reduced funds, and this has affected some of the activities that schools will be able to do in terms of putting up some of the infrastructures, in terms of improving the facilities and so on. Talk about the furniture, talk about renovations and so on. That has really affected a lot. But still, in terms of the fees that children pay, for instance, in private institutions, in secondary schools, we expect some of these renovations being done during holidays from those kind of peanuts, the monies that parents are able to pay. Because you cannot charge me for a service that you're poorly really delivering. That will not be something that people will really love to listen to. And we need to improve on that. And also the welfare of the teachers. Some of these teachers are under the PTA. And I don't know what strategies every institution is laying, because it depends on one institution to the other. Because the PTAs in these institutions vary in terms of their ideas, in terms of what they want their their facilities to be delivering and so on. Their priorities are different. But first most of these issues is to address the issues of the welfare of the teachers. Talk about teachers who have now moved away from rent to the schools. Teachers who are sleeping in school buildings. Talk about the classrooms. That is very unfortunate. There is need really to expedite on really bringing them closer to a more friendly spaces. You know, sleeping in a classroom, you really feel uncomfortable. First of all, the issues of privacy is not really guaranteed, and also the issues of interference with the activities you do. You know, you cannot bring family affairs in a public. A school institution is a public institution, so that is one thing we need to focus so much into, and also address some of the nitty-gritties that are needed for us to improve the academic performance of our learners. That marks it to the dot of the discussions around education and also the reopening that commenced yesterday. We will still continue to move to some of these schools to see whether there's improvement or there seems to be loopholes around the return of these learners. Is it the problem of the parents? Is it the problems of problem of the school administrators? Is it from the cities or the divisions or the sub-counties, the people responsible of supervision? That is what we'll be now focusing on in the subsequent days to come, because we all need good for our region. We all need good for the learners. We all need good for the institutions. But how do we do this? One of the ways is to understand the problems of each party that is supposed to be critical in eradicating poverty or illiteracy among the learners. Two is also really having a joint effort in sensitizing the public about some of these things. You know, some of the parents did not go far with education. It is hard for them to understand that through education, we are able to move far. We are able to achieve the issues of development. Through education, we are able to bring developments closer to our homes, where you see somebody's home is signing, where you see somebody's putting bungalows, somebody's putting wall fence, and so on. He's able to afford is because of the fruits of education. So how do you invest in education when you have the pain of paying? Because sometimes people feel like paying school fees is like an investment without returns. But in the near future, you'll be able to get the returns in case you're able to model your pupil or your child very, very well. And that's where we're taking a break from. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be able to move into the issues that really shaped the discussions around the budget conference for Westnile region. What are the key issues that our leaders in the various local governments are fronting to ensure that we are able to move far with other sub-regions in this country? Because Westnile had been having a lot of insurgencies. Talk about the rebel, the insecurities that came in and that made really people to move to DRC for asylum and so on. These are the things when we come back we'll be able to dive into and see if we are able to progress with the priorities that our people are fronting during this budget conference that is currently ongoing at Le Confidentiel Hotel in Erua City. Thank you.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region. A
Brand new Global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region. Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
We are discussing a lot of issues to do with the education of the learners. Third term has resumed official, and what is inside this resumption of the term. And one of the things that we understood clearly was the poor turnout of learners for the learning. Right now, you will clearly see that there's gap in terms of communication, and there are some institutions that resumed 2 weeks ago, and there are others that resumed yesterday, but still we have continued to register few learners turning up and so on. And this might retard the progress of the teachers in terms of the coverage of the syllabus and so on. This is where we are driving from. And can we see an effort put jointly to ensure that learners come back in large numbers in the subsequent terms that to come? Because if you cannot do this, we are really driving back to the seasons of our grandparents who did not go to school, who did not mind of really what education was. And remember, this region has really produced so many people who are instrumental in the public service, and so many people who are inspirational to the nation entirely, and also to the continent. Talk about so many people who have really achieved a lot of things for this country that came from this region. And are we ready to produce such people again? That is what we really all need to ask ourselves as people in this region, and also see if we can progress with this kind of education. And we have a lot of umbrella organizations that are gearing towards the development of this region. Can we fix the gaps around education jointly in terms of coming jointly, like as organizations, as CSOs, as also the government, the local governments talk about winter, which has been spearheading a lot of activities in. And you are actually wasting his time. He will not really be ready to pick ideas from you. And how do you bring this kind of people, or how do we end that kind of generation where we have knowledge gap, where we have people who cannot understand what others are saying? That is that could be actually a bridge. That gap will be bridged if we really yearn for the education for a common good for this region. Because if we cannot do that, it will have a bad impact. We will really go back to the early years of the hunters, the what, and so on, that we used to be best known of. And yet we don't have the forests that we used to hunt from. now because of the so much desire for money. Many people have really gone into commercial forest destruction. I may call it like that. You destroy forests for commercial purposes without replacement, and this has affected a lot of the climate that we have in this region. So let's put an end to literacy in this region. That's one barrier to the actual one success to poverty. If we cannot eradicate literacy, we will not move away from the poverty zone that we have continued to be ranked. And remember, Westnile is third on the lock in the country among the regions that we have. Out of the 15, we are third. So where are we moving from? We were second, we progressed to third. So do we still want to link around this in terms of poverty, in terms of the things to achieve? That is one thing we can really talk about if we can, okay, if we want to move further. Let's move away from that. Yesterday was Ministry of Finance Day in Westnile region. Talk about the budget conference for 2024-2025 financial year. And in this budget, we still remain, we are still reminded of the theme for this ongoing budget, which is 2023-2024, which still talks about modernization of agriculture and other issues to do with industrialization and economic development. That is where the country is moving to. And in this 2024-2025 financial year, the first priority of government is to add value and also go to commercialized agriculture. That is one of the priorities. Secondly, is talking about industrialization and research, and talk about technology. Talk about the issues of modern markets and also value addition. Talk about the issues to do with connectivity of electricity and other issues to do with labor. Talk about the issues of increasing employment opportunities, skilling, and so on. So many things that are highlighted in the 2024-2025 financial year budget that is forthcoming. And in the conference, there are a lot of issues that were presented by local governments. I talk about yesterday, there were 6 of them. Talk about Obongi, talk about Ajuman district, talk about Koboko, talk about Zombo, talk about Maracha and others. And this all came jointly together. Today, this budget conference will continue with now the 7 local government. Talk about Arua City, Arua District, Terego District, talk about Pakwach, and then also Nebi. That will be also there, featuring there. Talk about other local governments that I have not mentioned. This will all meet today, and a lot of issues will be discussed. And they want to, Ministry of Finance actually wants to document all the challenges that seem to be affecting Westnile region, things that need really finances from the central government, and really also what a game that local governments will be able to play. One of the issues of the discussion that featured yesterday was the issues of constant erratic power supply that is in Westnile region by the service providers that we have, and the need for the connectivity, the expedition of the progress of electricity connection in Westnile region, the issues around the extension of power lines to the rural people. Talk about the rural electrification. That government earmarked 17 million US dollars that is supposed to help in the extension of power to the rural people. And under this project, we have seen complaints coming from local governments that power, actually, the poles did not even actually reach some of the essential service points. Talk about schools, talk about churches, talk about hospitals or health centers, and also some of the homesteads that we are earmarked to benefit from this. And remember, people are supposed to also put some of the costs or share costs with government in terms of extending it now to your individual homes. That is one area that people are supposed to do. But you realize that the connectivity has continued to have a lot of issues around postponement of dates of bringing the national grid power to Westnile region. Remember, the first power communication that Westnile will be connected completely was in 2022. That was 30th of September 2022. That was communicated by the State Minister for Energy. And in that, they later on changed their mind and said it will be now in 2023 March. And this really failed also due to so many reasons. One of them was the issues of the money not being dispersed. The second one was the issues of compensation that continued to feature up to date. And remember, yesterday, finally, they communicated through the principal economist who works with a Ministry of Finance, that is Paul Mwancha, who communicated that Westnile will finally have a lead of the national grid power in 2024. That will be in June. This is another deviation from the communication earlier on by Ruf Nankapirwa, who is the Minister for Energy and Mineral Development in this country, who communicated during the President's visit to Westnile region that we had here in around April, that she said the power connectivity will be by the end of this year. So that is another development that is coming now. And what do you think around this in terms of improving the economy of this region, in terms of improving what we have in terms of value addition, in terms of also having the skilling of young people to pick up from the massive complaints around unemployment that government feels like it could be addressed when we have the availability of scaling hubs that have been instituted in every region to tap into the young people from the informal sector to really have something to do for self-employment and self-reliance. What can we do in relation to this? We have alternative sources of power. We have a lot of things to do with giving land for power connectivity. One of the issues that has delayed this is the issues of people not really getting satisfied of what government has valued their land to fix these poles. And that is where the conflict is. And it has continued to drag since 2018 up to now, when the substation here in Arua was launched in 2020, but the electricity connectivity processes started in 2018 from the borrowing of the 17.18 something million US dollars from the World Bank to really fast track the connectivity of electricity from the main grid to Westnile region. And this is supposed to pass via Kole. And from Kole up to Arua city is where we have issues with the landlords who have said the land has been undervalued. And what are the local leaders doing in relation to this? We have seen efforts towards harmonizing certain things around compensation, but many, I'm told, have been really compensated. They have taken it positive, but there's few who are really very, very urgently, they are supposed to, if they allow, then we could have power connected this year. But because people have really had those different variations, you know, when government programs come like this, people feel like this is the time to make money. And also because this land will be taken forever, part of this land will be taken forever. And you know, a pole does not cover even more than 1/4 of your land. And that is where really the issues of valuation have continued to come in and feature. So can we, as local leaders whom were elected by these people, go down to the people who are still feuding, who are still rejecting to give land to fix these poles, to expedite on the connectivity? Because one person has stopped service to be delivered to over thousands of people. So do you go with that? There were debates. Somebody was telling me that if you're a driver of a bus and you have 65 passengers in the bus, but you have one person, you are hooting, the person is not moving and is not leaving you the way. What do you do? And you don't have a brake. What do? Do you maybe overturn the bus, or you move away with, you kill the one person to save the rest of the people? And that is one thing I think government needed to do. There's a way, there are laws in this country that are really against certain things. If there's a project that is like to benefit so many people, but one person is frustrating the efforts, you have the laws that really permit you to go and challenge this in courts of law. So that is one thing we really need to take forth if this continues, because there are so many factories that are idle, they are not working because people have really not really seen the value for those factories because of the unstable electricity that cannot really continue to make people work in these things, add value, and that's why the economy is still below the anticipated 6.5. So do we leave people to suffer because we don't want, because one person is not paving the way? And that is one thing which is critical, and the lawmakers need to take it positively to really decide on that. And we leave it in their hands. If they can go on with negotiations successful and really expedite on the processes, it is well and good. But if they cannot continue with the negotiations, if they cannot agree with the landlords, they needed to really take the other alternatives that are available, provided by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, that will really make the progress of this government program really achieve its mandated goals. Because we cannot wait for one person to be cleared before we wait for this loan to expire. Because the loans have periods when you begin to offset them. And also if you fail to utilize it, World Bank has also restrictions that they can even take back the money because you did not meet the criteria, or you did not really have the desire to use the money, but only to borrow it to be eaten. That is what they will put in their minds. So let's expedite on that to avoid some of these issues. You know, power does not only affect the business persons, it also affects the health institutions. Talk about there are a number of equipments that need power to run. Talk about the microscopes, talk about the fridges that we have, the blood freeze, the vaccine freeze, and so on. All these need power. But also operations to be done, they need electricity, because if there's no power, there are some machines that need power. If they don't, there is no power, somebody can die at that period of the operations. So it is critical. Everyone needs to do his or her part in order to have this achieved. And that is one thing the leaders from the 6 local governments fronted yesterday, but also other issues were to do with education, having a good number of institutions established in some of the local governments. There are a number of sub-counties that do not have even a health center too. So that is very critical. So the issues around health service delivery is one thing that is featuring all over in terms of district hospitals not being there, understaffing, the issues of also schools not being in some of the sub-counties, government-aided schools not being there, and also vocational schools are missing in most of the institutions, in most of the local governments. That is another thing that featured yesterday. Slightly away from that, if you talk about vocational institutions, you will realize that the issues of secondary schools for persons with disabilities is one thing that is really very key, that has featured critical and needed really urgent attention. That's one thing they said. Ministry of Finance should team up with the Ministry of Local Government and also the Ministry of Education to really factor in that aspect. If we are talking about Uganda being one of the inclusive countries that has catered for the persons with disabilities, talk about the visual impairment, talk about physical disability, talk about other forms of disability, including mental. And if these are not catered for in terms of higher institutions of learning, it is very, very unfortunate. That means our learners are just inclusive in primary schools, because at least there are some institutions that are entirely designated for these kind of persons with disabilities, apart from some local governments not having it. But at least there are some local governments that have it in this region, where some local governments, other local governments are able to bring their learners. But the issues of secondary and vocational institutions for these learners is very critical, because you will not tell me that from primary, after completing maybe P7, these learners are able to now join other secondary schools where that are not having even the teachers for maybe persons with disabilities in them. That is one thing Uganda's education ministry needs to look into. The issues of interpreters, language interpreters, featured so much because some of the teachers do not understand what is written by Braille. So these are the teachers who will be really able to interpret for these learners who are maybe visually impaired, who cannot read, who cannot see what is happening, and so on. Those are the things. And also teachers who do not even have the capacity or the knowledge to use some of these machines. Those are things that are very, very important for the inclusiveness that we really have been saying to the world, that Uganda is an inclusive nation in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of other services that we provide. It is quite interesting that Uganda has actually progressed in terms of the inclusiveness, but there are so many loopholes that need to be addressed. If we can address them, we will say this nation is safe from the issues of violating the rights of persons with disabilities. Having a secondary school, having a vocational school for persons with disabilities is very, very paramount in terms of pushing them higher in learning processes, in terms of also other issues that will help them to do better in the near future. That is where we're driving from, and also if we can take it positive, it will change the life of the persons with disabilities. Remember, these persons with disabilities have also been at least incorporated in the employment sector. If you go to the districts, the district local governments, you will see some of them secretaries in the local governments. You will see them in health facilities, as some of them are nurses, some of them are cleaners, some of them, at least in every institution they are there. Even in the banking sector, in some of the banks they're already there, but in some of the private commercial banks we have not seen them. But at least government has catered. But also the private institutions have also been ordered to do this the same because of the issues to do with inclusion that the country is prioritizing. I'm quite happy that if government is able to take this positive and put an institution that will really be able to drive a lot. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be able to come into other issues and also talk about the issues of zoonotic diseases, and also talk about the issue of the country not really progressing further with its economy. Why? What is bringing it down? Is it about the issues of we not improving in terms of commercial agriculture that we identified of? Is it because of the issues to do with the attitude towards doing business where people don't want to pay taxes, evading them, but also what next should we do in order to come out of that kind of mentality. Let's take a break.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
A brand new Global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that commercial break. We are discussing some of the issues that featured in the budget consultative meeting, okay, the budget conference for Westnile region. That was really massive, with 6 local governments turning out yesterday in the first phase, and the second phase is actually today, where we'll be seeing 7 local governments, because Westnile region has 13 of them, and they really wanted to capture the issues from each local government. What is peculiar, what is delaying development, and what is that the central government needed to pick from the local governments in their budgeting processes, and also what needed to really be done in order to elevate some of these local governments to a better status. Talk about the health, the social aspects, talk about in terms of businesses, in terms of increasing local revenues, in terms of also seeing development not really frustrated at local governments. Remember, there are so many businesses or tenders that are awarded central, and this was one of the prominent issues that featured for the in the budget consultative meeting for 2024-2025 financial year, which will be coming starting from next year, July. And that is where the focus of government is. I remember telling you that the issues to do with commercial agriculture has had a lot of loopholes, and this is where government's emphasis is. Where are the challenges? We have seen a lot of issues to do with land fragmentation in this region, that local governments have failed to really unite people to have a block kind of farming, other than really fragmenting land. And also the issues to do with soil fertility being eroded because of the activities. People every dry season want to burn bushes, and this affects the nutrition of the soil, and also the nutrients in the soil, and also talk about the issues of the plant materials getting burned, and also talk about the germs or the small living organisms in the soil that really are there to fix nitrogen and other nutrients into the soil that really would make our soil fertile and so on. Those are where the challenges that are really making people not progress with agriculture in terms of commercialization, in terms of the issues of having large-scale farming that were really fronted. And also, how should the central government come into this? One of the issues that were fronted was the issues to do with equipping the farmers with knowledge in terms of improving soil fertility, but also moving away from inorganic fertilizers. Those are fertilizers that are manufactured in factories that include the cane, the what, and so on, that you all know that have really continued to derail the fertility of our soil, reduce the soil fertility, and this is where we have a challenge. We have crops that are not yielding very well. We have some of the traditional crops that people have continued to remain in and that are not disease resistant, and this affects a lot of the production that we have for these value addition facilities. You remember, we have so many value addition factories. You have also irrigation systems that are being also prioritized by government. You have also the issues around small scale irrigation systems that government has also ventured into through cost sharing with the farmers. And these are the ways government is trying to move away from the traditional methods of farming. Talk about the use of rudimentary tools, waiting for the rain from people say from God, but from the clouds that always come unpredictable. So this affects a lot of things, and taking the issues to do with the modern systems of agriculture needs a lot of money injected, and that's why you have the element of PDM that has come in. That's why you have the element of Emioga that has come in. That's why you have the youth livelihood programs, the women entrepreneurship programs, the WEP that is commonly known, and also you have the elders SAID, which is also there, the persons with disability grants that are also still being given. And these are all mostly free monies that come from government and that are termed to be seed capital. The seed capital that you're able to invest in agriculture, you're able to invest in business, and that is where government has gone. And so preparing the attitude of people has been one of the pillars of the PDM that has been put under after the financial inclusion, and that is the issues to do with mindset change. So if we can put effort in changing the mind of the people, and also the issues of moving away from the use of rudimentary tools for agriculture can push us away from the subsistence farming to the commercialized agriculture, which all of us are putting forth a lot of efforts. But also there is another factory that is being constructed for tea in Zompo, and this is where the tea farmers will be able to venture a lot and really reap a lot from, and that is one crop that has been identified for Westnile region. But also talk about the issues of cotton, coffee. Actually, moving away from cotton, it is now coffee that has been prioritized for Westnile region, because so many people have been cheated by private institutions that are dealing in the cotton links, the cotton belt, and so on. So many of those have been in terms of price fluctuation. When these private companies come to do marketing of these products, they will tell you, we're going to buy your cotton or simsim at 4,000 or 5,000 per kilogram. But when they mobilize people to grow this in large scale, and after Bamba harvest, you realize that companies just drastically reduce these prices, and it affects the morale of the farmers to do it for the next season, and that's where really many people have opted out of farming. And that is one virgin area where government can really come in. If establishes these value addition facilities, if electricity is fully utilized, this is where we'll be able to retain a lot of money. Farmers will be able to utilize their land. They'll be also have that morale of doing business on large scale. And that is where we'll be moving further. And also, moving away from that, remember the finance minister, Matia Kasaija, was represented by the state minister for privatization and investment, that is Evelyn Anite, who also comes from this region. And a lot of issues to do with the economy not doing well in terms of businesses, in terms of marketing, in terms of agriculture. That is the backbone of this country. Talk about the economy now standing at 5.5%. That is where we are moving towards. And we had advocated for 6.5, but now we have 5.5, which has not achieved the target, though we are slightly ahead of what we had last financial year, which was 4.5, and this is where the emphasis of the state minister is, and she has actually employed all the local governments, the leaders from this local government, especially those in the bordering, the border districts with the neighboring countries, to really make sure that the markets that are along the borders are secured clearly and gazetted in order to tap revenue, because cross-border business is one thing that is very, very fertile here in this region. And also talking about the issues of security roads that government has now prioritized along these borders, that is also one way to facilitate trade and also improve on the economy in terms of the money that will be retained in this country. And also the loopholes in developing the economy have been the issues to do with smuggling, which is very, very common along these border districts. Talk about fuel, talk about sugar, talk about rice, talk about cooking oil, which comes from the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo, especially the eastern part of this country, the neighboring country, which is a Ituri province, and that's the focus. Where is the loophole? What is the problem? Why can't the people at the customs do enough in order to stop the issues of smuggling? Remember, the international trade is regulated so much by the URA and also other agencies at the customs. They talk about the immigration department and so on. Talk about the issues of wildlife trafficking, where a lot of money is lost in terms of people maybe coming illegally to trade in some of these animals that we have. Talk about the pangolins, talk about the tusks of our elephants and so on. We have seen scenarios of people killing these animals, reported so much into the wildlife department of this country, and there are a lot of efforts in fast-tracking that. If all the entities are able to join together to fight these issues of trafficking, issues of smuggling, this will help a lot in terms of the improving the income of this country, in terms of revenue, in terms of also tourism. You know, tourism is very, very important, and that is one thing which is very, very, very fertile. That has been contributing a lot of money to this country. Remember, tourism attracts more money than the coffee that Uganda has. And if we cannot venture into this, we have tourism officers that have not been one of the primary employment ventures by the Ministry of Tourism in the local governments. And now that there's need and there's appetite for the tourism officers in all the local governments, this will be very, very fruitful in terms of improving the tourism sites, in terms of marking them, in terms of also really increasing the returns from that untapped area from the local governments. And also the issues of smuggling has persisted in terms of one of the items that has been smuggled, and that has remained so frustrating and also devastating the streets of some of these towns is the issues to do with fuel smuggling. Talk about petrol, to be specific, from the neighboring countries of Democratic Republic of Congo. I remember earlier on talking in some of in one of the shows that fuel is persistently smuggled in Uganda here from the neighboring countries just because of the variation in taxes. If our export or import duties are not harmonized as East African community, we will continue to have this challenge of smuggling. We will not fight this as a community. We will not have our economies developed, because in East African community, most of the member states are still suffering with the issues of collection of revenue. And this is done deliberately by business persons because they realize they have seen the loopholes in managing revenue. If you look at the whole of East African community, Uganda is one country that has the biggest or the highest revenue, tax revenue in terms of imports and exports. And you realize that our tax charges still stands between 17 to 18%, and yet some of the countries have it up to 13%. And this variation brings a lot of that kind of things. Maybe traders find it inconveniencing in terms of doing business here in this country because of those kind of tax variations. Can the heads of states sit down and harmonize some of this? And also, the mandate of having taxes harmonized is entirely in the hands of the policymakers, because URA does not have any mandate of maybe reducing taxes or increasing. So it is the people who sit in the Committee of Finance and Economy. So these are the MPs, the commissioners, talk about the secretaries who sit there, who are supposed to really look at these kind of things. How do we attract investment if we have the highest tax base? What are the benefits that we're giving them? What are the ways we're going to bring them back? One of these has been the tax incentives. The incentives that we have, one of these was giving land for free for the investors to come and establish factories to do a lot of skilling and also employing our all young people, which is free of charge. And that is one way we have done this. Have we achieved a lot from that? We have seen some investors coming in, they establish structures, but because they fail to maintain the businesses, or they fail to continue with the ventures because of some of the taxes and so on, we have seen some of them abandoning these factories and moving away. And that is so unfortunate. That means the bigger number of people that we thought will be employing through this kind of relationship, and also the tax incentives that we are having, we will be losing as a country. Because this person, after trading, after realizing the profits, just shifts the profits and moves with them. In some countries, people, you are not supposed to go with physical money, but we have given the liberty for these investors to move away with the monies that they have collected from this country. And that means our economy will not really progress so fast, so steadily, because we have failed to tap into those kind of ventures, the virgin areas of investors coming in, but also giving them fair environment to trade in terms of businesses. That is one thing, and that's why you see a lot of things to do with investors turning to be hawkers. Okay, there are so many investors who have turned to be hawkers. We have seen these people people who came in as investors, establishing wholesales businesses. After this, You will see some of them moving with the chapati on the roads with wheelbarrows and so on. Those come because people have failed to sustain the businesses they are doing. And how do we really make sure that they don't now take away the businesses from the ordinary citizens? Because we believe the investor has the money. That's why he's able to come and establish those big chunks of businesses in the country. But now if they come back to do retail trade, that our people will be able to really buy some of these products from them, and they're able to also do the same businesses. The women that are supposed to do the businesses, maybe sell greens, sell chapati by the young people, the same businesses they are doing in Chikubo, here on the streets of Arua town. And those are the things that will really kick our people out of businesses and make them become poorer and poorer. And that means the economy will not really continue to grow. And one of the parameters that are used to assess a growing economy is the income of the local people. The income of the local people. Has it increased? How many people are in the employment sector? How many people are now in the businesses? How many people are able to afford meals or 3 times in a day or even once in a day? That is very, very important. And also, how many people are able to impress savings culture in the banks, in small savings groups? Those are the parameters that they look at the strength of a nation in terms of economy. And if you cannot really do that, that is where we'll tap it wrong, and we'll continue to remain in the low income status as a country, and that is very, very unfortunate, and we'll be continuing to be ranked the poorest. And yet we have a lot of resources to tap in, we have a lot of land to invest in, we have a lot of technology. We are also investing in technology. We have ICT department, we have a lot of minerals, we have a lot of talk about the oil that we are trying to extract. How much are we prepared in terms of pushing our young people, the local young people here, indigenous, I mean the Ugandans, to work in that sector instead of seeing the companies from outside coming to do these kind of things that we could be able to do, because we have so many engineers that have graduated. Out of the over 5,000, there are so many who could do a lot of things in this kind of institutions in terms of labor energy that is deployed. And if we cannot do that, and that is where we will tap it wrong, and we will continue to be ranked low and low consistently. And that brings the discussion around economy really to a close, because I mean bringing it down means a lot is to be done. All the stakeholders have a stake in this. The local persons, in terms of avoiding taxes. If you are avoiding taxes, it is quite unfortunate. You will be taken to jail. If you are evading taxes, you know the penalties that come with it. If you are smuggling, you know it is a criminal offense. It is an offense that is not also in the positive minds of all the nations. All the nations want to grow. So if you are smuggling, if you are dealing in illicit financing, I mean illicit financing is using money for wrong purposes, not only corruption, but also smuggling is one of the ways of illicit financing. Talk about wildlife trafficking and human and so on. So many other things that we really need to stop if we want to grow as a nation, if we want to grow as individuals, if we want to grow as institutions. That is where we'll be able to have this peace in mind. But also some of the issues that featured included the issues of hybrid projects. Talk about acquiring the services of companies to do constructions or doing other developments. Talk about the programs of YouGift. That is one of the projects that has featured so much, where the central government is the one identifying most of these contractors. But even if it is the local governments that are to identify them, sometimes the conditions that are put may not warrant or may not allow the local governments to get these kind of contractors. The conditions seem to be very tight and so on. Those are things that featured, and this has actually made a lot of these projects really stall in terms of making sure that the projects are monitored, in terms of also really in terms of seeing the value for money, because most of the local governments say that they really feel inferior in supervising some of these projects, since the contractors tend to be notorious and tell them openly that they are not responsible to answer questions by any of the leaders from the local governments, and that is another quite unfortunate thing. And then there were accusations on the people who were sent to Westnile region to come and train the officers to do the PDM registration, online registration, and also filling data. Especially in 6 local governments who were attending, they really adduced the evidences that these people who were assigned, despite of them getting money from the central government as facilitation, they forced the local governments to create a budget for them. So these people ate double money in terms of the capacity building they had. And also the capacity building was really incomplete. And this made the state minister to force one of the trainers from the PDM secretariat to remain in Westnile to train all these officers in local government. Remember, Westnile, majority of the local governments have not dispersed the PDM monies to the beneficiaries, and this is because people keeping the records and also electronic means of disbursing the money has not been one of the things they have been utilizing. But though some of the districts have really have some of the alternatives with the banks to disburse some of these monies. For instance, Yumbe district was able to give out up to 72% of the PDM monies, and this is just because they were helped with some an app from Post Bank to disperse the monies, and that's where they are doing it. And most of the districts are using the manual system, which is contrary to the directive from the Ministry of Finance that already guided that all these local governments will use the electronic system in order to ensure that double payments are avoided, and also to ensure that these beneficiaries are traced up to the dot, and ensure also that the monies are not corrupted in any way, and they reach the rightful beneficiaries. And remember, doing this system manually means the accusations that people used to levy on some of the officers, for instance, the focal persons going to ask for some money for you to approve the monies and so on, were the issues that were featured, and that made the finance ministry to put that clause that all the systems should be electronically, so that it is monitored centrally but also locally, to see that so and so has benefited. And also a lot of people are seen on the system that this number of beneficiaries were enrolled. Out of this have benefited, and that makes work easier in terms of record keeping, in terms of tracing the beneficiaries, in terms of accountability. That is the issue. So the issues of double payment to these trainers is the issue that is being investigated and has been taken up by the representatives of Ministry of Finance, who were first of all represented by the state minister and also some of the people from the Ministry of Local Government, who said they are going to follow it up with the Ministry of ICT on the type of the people they sent to Westnile region to do the data entry training and also the online training for the PIDMIS system. And that is one thing that was so critical, and that means if these people truly picked the monies, it means they really did a lot of disservice to the local governments. But also the quite unfortunate bit was a testimony from Koboko district local government that the person who was sent to train the local government staff did not even know how to feed the system, the data in the system from the start up to the end. And up to now, the municipal, actually the district has not really uploaded all these members on the system. And that is one serious thing on the nature of the people you are sent in to come and train. Do they have the knowledge? And we were told that these were interns. We are yet to see if this was true, or the ministry really got some people from universities and said, go to Westnile. Do they have the capacity or do they have the knowledge to use the system? And that is one thing that was so critical. And they were recommending that in the next phase or in the next phase of programs that will be coming to Westnile region, the principal persons should be the ones to come and train the people in the region in order to really avoid these delays. Remember, there are some regions that have gone far in dispersing these monies. That means the beneficiaries have gone far in also utilizing them. They are reaping the benefits, but since PDM was launched, up to now, Westnile region has not really had that very far impact. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be able to also dive into other issues that are before us that we really want to discuss with you. If you are following us on YouTube, we say thank you very much. You can also have that interaction with me through the box, the message box, where you'll be able to type your comment and send to me, and we'll be able to discuss whatever you have shared with us. If you want to also appreciate, it is the right time for you to say thank you. If you want to criticize and say there's need to improve on this project, there's need to do this, there's need to do this, you're welcome, because it is for the benefit of the people who we are talking to. And let's take a break. Let's come back after some time and we'll be discussing other issues later on. Thank you.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
A brand new Global Star TV with StarTimes Inside Technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTimes antenna and satellite signal. With StarTimes Inside Global Star TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update, more benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Inside Global Star TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Westnile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from that commercial break. I also introduced a lot of issues around politics and also the issues to do with the zoonotic diseases that have continued to be persistent in Western region, and that is where we'll be discussing a lot of issues in this current segment. Remember, Forum for Democratic Change has had a lot of battles in terms of leadership, in terms of also harmonizing the party to have someone represent the party at the party headquarters to lead or to be the party president or the chairperson. A lot of issues have been around this, and remember, this is a fight that started like a rumor, and it came boldly on the public domain in terms of the issues of allegations of bribery, in terms of allegations around money being eaten, money being used in a wrong way, and so on, poor accountability, and also being reliable or being accountable to the party by the former leaders, and by the current leaders, and also the former leaders who pretended to be advising the party on the direction to take. But because of some of these issues, remember there were issues to do with the BCG utilizing 30 million from unknown sources that were given to some of the members, and that was the only money that came in the public domain that the party termed as a dirty money that they were actually not interested in. And the queries around this were: who gave you the money, and what was it meant for, and why is it that you are behaving as if you are not with us? Those were the questions that were raised by some of the party members, and that really led to a number of factions that came out, and one of these was led by Birigwa, and this really brought a lot of issues in relation to harmonizing the structures of the party, where a number of people were saying, no, we want to follow the current leadership led by Power, and then we have this Dr. Colonel Besage Kiza, who came back again after telling Ugandans that I'm not going to contest in any position, I'm no longer going to be a politician by the virtue I've retired from active politics. That is after really giving a lot of hard times to the NRM government in the subsequent years that he was really contesting as the main opposition leader at that time, and he led a lot of campaigns in relation to really rallying the masses to join him in order to capture power in the elections up to 2016. And this really the FDC members thought he has done a lot. He has tried a lot in spearheading the party and taking it very far, and they thought and said really there needed to be Power, that is Patrick Oboya Muriat, to really spearhead them also to see if they can move far. But things seemed to be coming down after Power coming in, and we saw another political party registered in the 2021 general elections. That was the National Unity Platform that came in and gave also hard time to FDC party, which fronted Patrick Oboya Muriat as their main man in the ring to fight with the other people. Talk about our Katumba Oye, which came like a beeping light, which many people took a lot of jokes from. When he comes on the streets, he said, Katumba Oye, people say Oye, and so on. There were a lot of funny things that came, and really people thought politics is turning to be a joking matter, yet it is one of the pillars, one of the greatest niche of democracy that shapes the nation's development. And that's why a lot of issues are moving around who qualifies to be a presidential candidate and who is there that we really need. What are the qualifications, and those are things that people are putting in the electoral reforms. But moving slightly away from the electoral reforms, you will realize that now that the court 2 weeks ago put an injunction on the national conference that will be was expected to be organized by a team led by Birigua's faction, that is comprising of Arias Lukwago, talk about the opposition whip, and also talk about Dr. Kiza Besic, who is also behind the brain. And this conference was called off by court, and they said that this was illegal, and it was not really in line with the party. If you look at the constitution of Forum for Democratic Change, it is supposed to be the party chairman to call for a national kind of conference that all the delegates are supposed to meet. It is the chairman who has that mandate to call for that kind of meetings. And upon consultations with the secretary and also some of the party executives who sit and harmonize this kind of thing. But now you are seeing parallel factions trying to call for national executive meetings that are against the constitution of this party. And there was a petition put because of that kind of move by the faction led by Birigua and also Arias Lukwago, their lawyer, who are pressing hard that they want this to take place. And yesterday there was a court ruling that that injunction remains, and as long as the party secretary general or the party chairman has not communicated through the party secretary to court that they are also now coming to call for the extraordinary meetings or the national executive meetings for all the representatives or the delegates from other regions to come and have a debate or meetings or have a harmonization about what is going on in the party. So this injunction means today's meeting is not supposed to be there. So we saw resistance from this party or the faction that is led by Birigua that today they'll be having this meeting progressing. So that is where we are putting our eyes to see if this will continue, and if they go against the court's decision, what is next. And that is one thing we'll be also bringing you forth after maybe the day ends, and or maybe tomorrow, if there's any development, we'll be also able to update you around that. That is where the FDC has gone, and because of that, the consultations have been halted, and there's nothing like the party progressing with engagements at regional levels, much as we saw Dr. Kiza Besic coming to Westnile region to mobilize people to join the faction they have already created, and they should be able to move for that national executive meeting. That is one thing we're to see if that meeting will really take place, and that is where Forum for Democratic Change has really had a lot of hurdles, where sitting together in a round table has really continued to be a very big challenging thing, because meetings are held on phones, meetings are held anywhere, and so on. It is hard to collect all these views of the elites who want to contribute to the development of this party. So where is the fate of this party? is what we will put on hold at the moment. We will not declare it yet. We want to see the outcomes of what it will be really bringing forth. We will be in the near future. We will bring one of the political scientists to come and analyze for us what is that thing which is in FDC that is really making this party splitted, and also what does this mean to the party, where we'll be bringing this political scientist who is also an ambassador, currently is for leave in Westnile region. We'll be engaging him on this in the subsequent hours of the KOKOLIRIKO show that runs from every Monday to Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. That is where you'll be able to get some of these things. If you keep watching and also following the discussions that we have, you'll be able to get some of those events and also really issues that are being discussed here live. And also, let's move away from politics. I earlier on told you about how Westnile region has continued to paint the image of Uganda as a country in terms of zoonotic diseases, and really how this has continued to affect the economic life of the people, and also reduced the commercialized agriculture that the country is advocating for. Remember, in 1935, that was the first case of rabies that was discovered in Arua district, and that was in Vura County. And in Vura County, subsequently, the other sub-county was Rhino Camp. These two sub-counties reported the first case of rabies in this country, and from that point, this continued. That's just because people felt their dogs were so important. Hunting was the priority for men in this region, and the main economic value that people had so much, and also the activity that they had, was hunting, because there were a lot of wildlife species, I mean animals that were so many, and the population was not so large, and we had a lot of so many forests that were unprotected. There were so many here in this region, and so the first dog was not killed, and this dog continued to spread this rabies to other animals. Talk about goats also, and also human beings, and you have other dogs that also now got this disease. That from that genesis, this continued to spread, not until it went viral to other parts of the country, and this went up to as far as now the Western Uganda. That's where we have this rabies that has been spread, and this is one zoonotic disease that has persisted for years and years, and this continued to spread, and people believed that this dog got the virus or the germ from Democratic Republic of Congo, the Eastern Ituri province, where people will go and hunt up to DRC, and the issues of border protection were not really so sensitive in those times of governments. Remember, those at that time the British were the ones ruling this country and so on, and Uganda was not yet independent, and this affected a lot of issues to do with prevention and issues to do with diagnosis, the issues of surveillance, which were really so touching, and this continued up to now. We continue to have these cases, and according to scientists, you realize that once a zoonotic disease or a disease that is of public concern comes to an area, the pathogens can remain for years and years and can live in a soil for thousands, and talk about the diseases like anthrax, diseases like rabies, diseases like many others that you will mention. These are all zoonotic diseases, and these diseases that are of now global concern. what do we need to do, and what can we do in the meantime? We talked about the issues to do with restraining dogs from being stray, and also impressing castration in animals. I don't know what what the scientific terms are, but removing the testicles of these male dogs is very important to reduce the reproduction. And you know, the dogs get some of these things in the processes of reproduction when they're playing those sexes during dry season. You know, most dogs, that's the time for them to meet. The mating period is mostly during those dry seasons. If you are able to keep your dogs safe and also avoid those movements and so on, it is very important. But also allowing children to be in homes is very important in order to avoid those cases being transmitted to them. And a lot of issues around surveillance is very important. I remember recently the Commissioner for Animal Health was proposing that there should be a law to regulate dogs, the number of dogs kept in a family. This was because so many people kept a lot of dogs, but because we don't have forests that attract so many wild animals, hunting has been restricted, and it being also one of the crimes that has been enlisted in the Wildlife Act. Once you are actually arrested doing hunting and also poaching of this wildlife, you are supposed to pay 20 million Ugandan shillings, and that is a very big money. And so that is where the restrictions of keeping these pets is coming in, and also having vaccination, a very important thing, is one thing people need to embrace, and that's where we're putting all the discussions to a close. When we come back for tomorrow's discussions, we should be able to engage with some of the people, maybe bring some of the experts to analyze some of these things for you, to really see where we are currently as Westnile region, and also where the country is, what are the interventions that the country is bringing forth in order to really bridge this or put an end, if not an end, but to minimize the cases. That is where we'll be driving to. I have been Dramad Frederick, really taking you through this KOKOLIRIKO show that started from 7 up to this hour of the time. That is now 9 minutes to 9 a.m. We'll leave the remaining minutes for the people in the newsroom. I'm talking about the Liberty people who are coming. That will be led by Feta Emmanuel, who will be presenting you the news in Liberty. Let's take a leave from here. We'll meet again tomorrow, the same time, the same show, still the same television station. Thank you for watching.